Anderson. Breaking news. Sweden has just delivered its strongest and final warning to Vladimir Putin, demanding that Russia immediately withdraw from Ukraine. This is not a light statement or a casual diplomatic remark, but a direct and powerful message that signals how far Sweden has moved from its old policies of neutrality. For decades, Sweden was seen as a quiet nation on the world stage, preferring diplomacy and stability over confrontation. But now, after months of war in Ukraine and repeated Russian threats across Europe, Stockholm has drawn a clear line. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to InfoPulse 0.2. Thank you for joining us again. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video because we bring you the latest global updates, detailed analysis, and important insights into the events shaping our world. Today's story is not just another piece of news. It's about a turning point in Europe's security, about a country that has said enough is enough to Russia's aggression, and about what this means for the future of Ukraine, NATO, and the world. Sweden's message to Putin is firm. The war against Ukraine must stop. The illegal occupation of Ukrainian territory must end, and Russia must respect international law. This warning carries weight because Sweden is no longer a neutral bystander. It is now a NATO member, aligned fully with the world's strongest military alliance. When Sweden speaks today, it speaks with the backing of allies across Europe and North America. The timing of this warning is also critical. As Russia continues missile strikes on Ukrainian cities, as fighting grinds on in the east and south, and as winter approaches, the West is preparing for a new phase of pressure against Moscow. Sweden's voice adds to that rising chorus of determination. For Ukrainians, this is more than words. Sweden has already provided significant military and humanitarian aid, including advanced weaponry, armored vehicles, and air defense systems. Its final warning is matched with action, and that is what sets it apart. When Stockholm says Russia must leave Ukraine, it also signals its readiness to stand shoulder to shoulder with NATO partners in enforcing that principle. This is not a hollow threat, but a growing alignment of nations ready to ensure that Putin's war does not succeed.
Let's take a step back. Why is Sweden's warning so important? Historically, Sweden was one of the most respected neutral nations in the world. Through both world wars and the Cold War, it avoided joining alliances, choosing instead to act as a mediator and peacekeeper. But everything changed on February 24, 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine. That day shattered decades of Swedish foreign policy. Neutrality could no longer protect Sweden from the dangers posed by Putin's aggression. The invasion was seen not just as an attack on Ukraine, but as a threat to all of Europe's smaller nations. If Ukraine could be invaded, then who would be safe? This realization pushed Sweden to apply for NATO membership alongside Finland, and now both are part of the alliance.
With this background, Sweden's warning is not symbolic. It represents a nation that has fundamentally changed its identity in response to Putin's actions. Stockholm is no longer saying we disapprove or we condemn. It is saying get out now or face the united strength of NATO and the global community. That is why this warning matters so much today. Putin's reaction so far has been to ignore such statements. Russia continues to frame the war as a defensive action, blaming the West and accusing NATO of aggression. But the reality is that Russia's army has suffered heavy losses, its economy is strained, and its international standing is collapsing. Every new country that strengthens its stance against Moscow adds to the isolation. Sweden's voice is a reminder that Russia has created more enemies than friends with this war. Inside Ukraine, this warning boosts morale. Ukrainians know they are not fighting alone. Every speech, every shipment of weapons, and every political stand reinforces the idea that Ukraine's sovereignty is non-negotiable. Sweden's support also gives Kyiv hope that NATO's support will remain strong, no matter how long the conflict drags on. And make no mistake, Sweden's contributions are not symbolic gestures. Its advanced systems are helping to protect Ukrainian skies from Russian drones and missiles. Its political commitment ensures that aid continues flowing. But what happens if Putin ignores this final warning? The consequences could escalate. Sweden is likely prepared to push for even tougher sanctions on Russia, to increase the supply of weapons to Ukraine, and to strengthen NATO's posture in Eastern Europe. Already, NATO forces are expanding their presence in the Baltic region. With more troops, more exercises, and more defensive measures, Russia's neighbors are making it clear that any aggression beyond Ukraine will be met with overwhelming resistance. The bigger picture is also important. Sweden's warning is not just about Ukraine, it is about the rules of the world order. If Russia succeeds in taking territory by force, it sets a precedent that threatens every small country on the map. Sweden knows this because of its own geography. It sits close to Russia across the Baltic Sea and has long worried about Moscow's ambitions. By standing firmly with Ukraine, Sweden is also defending itself and its future. In Moscow, this warning will not be ignored. Russian leaders watch Sweden closely because Sweden is now a direct neighbor of NATO and its military is highly advanced. Sweden may not be a superpower, but it has a strong modern military and an economy capable of sustaining support for Ukraine. More importantly, Sweden's move symbolizes the broader unity of the West. Russia hoped to divide Europe, to weaken NATO, and to discourage countries from joining alliances. Instead, Putin's war has done the opposite. It has united Europe and expanded NATO. This is why Sweden's final warning is so significant. It is not just Sweden versus Russia. It is a statement backed by an entire alliance that now stretches from the Arctic to the Mediterranean. For Putin, this is a strategic failure. His attempt to intimidate neighbors has pushed them directly into NATO's arms. For the world, it is proof that aggression does not go unanswered. Sweden's military readiness also makes this warning serious. The Swedish armed forces are modern, well-equipped, and trained to defend against hybrid and conventional threats. Sweden operates advanced fighter jets like the Gripen, sophisticated naval forces that control the Baltic Sea, and highly skilled intelligence units that monitor Russian movements. Combined with NATO's collective defense guarantee, Sweden is now a crucial link in Europe's security chain. For Russia, this means its room for maneuver has shrunk even further. Beyond the military sphere, Sweden's warning also has economic weight. As part of the European Union, Sweden contributes to sanctions that target Russia's banks, energy sector, and defense industries. These sanctions have already cut deep into Russia's economy, and further tightening could cripple Moscow's ability to sustain the war. Sweden is pushing for no loopholes, no backdoors, and no weak enforcement. The message is clear: aggression will cost Russia more than it can afford. Diplomatically, Sweden is amplifying Ukraine's case in every forum, from the United Nations to the European Parliament. Swedish officials are pressing for accountability, war crimes investigations, and justice for victims of Russian attacks. Sweden has joined calls for Russia to pay reparations and for international courts to prosecute those responsible for atrocities. This adds another layer to the warning. It's not only about ending the war, but also about holding Moscow accountable after it is over. Looking at history, Sweden and Russia have a long and complicated relationship. Centuries ago, they were rivals in the Baltic region, fighting wars for dominance. Over time, Sweden stepped back from empire, choosing peace and neutrality. But the memory of Russia as a threat never disappeared. Today, history seems to be repeating itself. Sweden's final warning echoes centuries of experience. Russia cannot be trusted when it disregards the rights of its neighbors. This is why Sweden is standing firm now. For the people of Sweden, this shift is deeply emotional. Public opinion has transformed in just a few years. Before 2022, many Swedes opposed joining NATO, preferring neutrality. But after watching Ukraine suffer under invasion, after seeing Russia's disregard for international rules, public support for NATO surged to record levels. Today, Swedes understand that neutrality is no longer safety, it is vulnerability. Their leaders reflect this sentiment in every decision they make. What about the future? If Russia continues its aggression, Sweden's role in the conflict will likely deepen. More weapons, more training for Ukrainian soldiers, more intelligence sharing. Sweden's industries are capable of producing high-tech defense equipment that Ukraine desperately needs. Its political leaders are committed to making sure that Ukraine does not fall. Over time, Sweden could become one of Kiev's most reliable allies. If, on the other hand, Russia begins to retreat or seeks negotiations, Sweden's role could shift again. With its long history of diplomacy, Sweden could become a key mediator, helping to shape a peace settlement. But for now, the message is firm. Peace can only come after Russia withdraws. There is no compromise on Ukraine's sovereignty. For Putin, the danger of ignoring Sweden's warning is that he risks uniting the world even further against him. Already, his war has turned countries like Sweden and Finland into NATO members. Already, nations across Europe are rearming and rebuilding their defenses. Already, his economy is weaker and his global influence smaller. Every warning he dismisses becomes another nail in the coffin of his long-term strategy. For Ukraine, Sweden's warning is a lifeline. It is a promise that support will not fade, that new allies will continue to step forward, and that Putin cannot win by waiting out the West. This matters because wars are not only fought on battlefields, they are fought in morale, in willpower, in determination. Sweden's final warning is fuel for Ukraine's resolve. The world is watching closely. Will Putin escalate in response? Will he ignore it and continue grinding away at Ukraine? Or will he eventually realize that the costs of this war outweigh the benefits? No one can say for sure, but what is certain is that Sweden's stance makes the path of aggression far riskier for Moscow. In the end, Sweden's final warning to Putin is about more than Ukraine. It is about the principle that no country should be allowed to invade another in the 21st century. It is about defending freedom, sovereignty, and stability in Europe. And it is about ensuring that future generations do not live under the shadow of unchecked aggression. This moment will be remembered as a turning point in Sweden's history and in the global struggle against authoritarianism.
A once neutral nation now stands as a pillar of NATO, sending a clear message to Moscow: get out of Ukraine now.
Thank you for staying with us through this in-depth analysis. The story of Sweden's final warning is about courage, unity, and the defense of values that shape our world. Keep following InfoPulse 0.2 for the latest updates. Share this video with others who care about global security. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss a new analysis. The situation in Ukraine is far from over, but together we can stay informed and aware of every critical development.